Recently, I made a video about Nene being the last man standing from the 2002 NBA draft class. A surprising feat considering all the injuries he suffered early in his career. But the 2001 draft class still has a handful of players still going at it. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and in this video we're going to take a look at the 4 remaining players from the 2001 NBA draft. Number 4, Zach Randolph. Now, it might be a reach to say that Randolph is still one of the last players standing, considering that he didn't play at all in the 2018-19 season. But as of recently, like a few months ago, he was still signed to an NBA team. He started off the season on the Kings roster, but then the organization wanted to focus on developing their young guys, thus benching Randolph. The Kings signed him with the intention of being a veteran leader on a team full of young players, and he's been well respected behind the scenes in the locker room, even though he hasn't been playing. It's been a turbulent career for Zebo. Starting off his early days in Portland, he had the reputation for being immature, for being a hothead who lost his temper frequently and got into trouble off the court. So he fit into that Jailblazer squad pretty well. By the mid-2000s, Randolph became a perennial 20 and 10 threat. And by the time he got to Memphis, he reinvented himself. He embraced the city and the city embraced him. In Memphis, he had the best years of his career, making the playoffs for 7 straight seasons, and even reaching the Western Conference Finals. It was in Memphis where he would become an all-star, and recognized as one of the best power forwards in the league. The 2011 playoff series against San Antonio, where the Grizzlies knocked them out as the 8th seed, that was the best playoff series of Randolph's career. When reflecting on his time there, he said, "It was tough for me. This is the first time I've really talked about this with anybody. I haven't talked about it, it's been difficult because I'm such a loyal person. I sacrificed a lot for this organization. It was difficult, but I was put in a good situation. I thank Memphis for everything. They gave me a chance to let people know me and believe in me. I thank Michael Heisley and his wife for bringing me to the city." Unfortunately, it looks like Randolph is on his last legs, and it's unlikely that he'll ever play another NBA game. For the 19th pick of the draft, he had a phenomenal career. Number 3, Pau Gasol. Gasol is another guy who looks like he's on his last legs. He spent his recent months recovering from an injury on the Milwaukee Bucks, sitting on the sidelines and supporting his team as they make a deep playoff run. Unfortunately, Gasol is going to be a 2019 unrestricted free agent, so it looks like his career will be over too. I can't really see any team willing to take a chance on a 39-year-old Pau Gasol coming off of a foot surgery. With that being said, Pau had an amazing career, in the NBA and internationally. He's certainly a Hall of Famer. Early on, he spent his years in Memphis and brought the franchise into relevance for the first time in their history. He arrived there shortly after the team relocated to Memphis from Vancouver, and they needed a star like him to bring in viewers. Gasol was that star. He wasn't a superstar in the NBA, but he was quite popular and very good. In 6 seasons in Memphis, he averaged nearly 19 points and 9 rebounds a game and over 3 assists too. He was one of the best post-up and passing big men in the league. And later on, it was in Los Angeles where he got to show off his talents on the biggest stage, winning back-to-back championships alongside Kobe Bryant. Then in Chicago, he was a major addition to a team that really needed some help in the midst of Derrick Rose's injuries. Gasol helped them get back into the playoffs again and become a dark horse contender. Then, moving on to San Antonio, he revamped his game and made his mark as a legit three-point threat. Gasol would finish his career as a 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and a 2-time champion. One of the most versatile big men we've ever seen, and also one of the loudest.
Tough.
Ready to stop. Gasol gallops across the lane, turns, fires. That's against Mark. Mark got a shot up, no.
Additionally, his international accomplishments should not go unnoticed. Pau led Spain to a gold medal in the World Cup, multiple gold medals in the Eurobasket, 2 Olympic silver medals in 2008 and 2012, where Spain would lose 2 tightly contested games to the United States. Retirement is coming close for Pau, and although a year ago, he did say he wants to play 3 or 4 more years, but I don't know about that, especially after getting that foot injury. Number 2, Tyson Chandler. The number 2 pick of the draft. Unlike the other guys so far, Chandler has actually gotten meaningful minutes throughout the 2018-19 season. Well, that was until he started suffering a myriad of injuries towards the end of the season, so he missed significant time afterwards. But in the minutes he did play, he still looks like a solid contributor. Obviously, the athleticism, the speed, and the defense aren't as good as he once was, but at least his beard is bigger than James Harden's now. So I guess he improved in something. Anyway, throughout his career, Chandler has progressed much differently than most other players. Being the number 2 pick, he was immediately traded to the Chicago Bulls for Elton Brand, the Bulls' rising young star. So the expectations were super high to begin with, and unfortunately, Chandler never lived up to the hype in Chicago. As a high schooler, the pressure was insurmountable, and he really struggled in his first few years. However, he slowly and steadily got better, and worked on a part of his game that would make him valuable, his defense. He became a critical piece in the Mavs' championship run, the perfect complement to Dirk Nowitzki, as he covered all of his flaws on defense. Then, in the following year, he would win the 2012 Defensive Player of the Year, as a member of the New York Knicks. Mark Cuban has told reporters numerous times that letting Chandler go was his biggest regret. Although he would come back to the team years later, it was a bit too late at that point. In the twilight years of Tyson's career, he's been mainly just chugging along. He's a 2019 free agent, just like Randolph and Pau Gasol, but I think Chandler has a great chance of getting signed by somebody. He can still give you a solid 10 to 15 minutes off the bench, and would be a good addition to any young team looking for a backup center or another veteran voice in the locker room. And number 1, Tony Parker. Parker is the guy who's still contributing the most. As a member of the Charlotte Hornets, the backup point guard to Kemba Walker, Parker has averaged over 9 points and 3 assists per game. He no longer has the same speed and quickness as before, especially after suffering that quad injury a few years ago. It all went downhill from there. But he's still a solid player, and at times during the season, he even took over a couple of games. He scored at least 20 points in 5 different games this season, and he was incredibly efficient in all of them. Parker can definitely still play, but inconsistency is the issue now, which happens to all players when they get older. He just can't play super well every single night anymore. Parker's contract also extends until the end of the 2020 season, so he technically still has at least 1 season to go. But recently, rumors have suggested that he might forgo the last year of his contract and retire. Hopefully he doesn't though. As for his NBA career, we all know how good he's been, but perhaps he still gets overlooked sometimes. 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, 4-time champion, the 2007 Finals MVP, and incredibly underrated throughout his entire career. He always got overshadowed by guys like Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, and later on Chris Paul and Darren Williams, who became stars very quickly. Parker was kind of just there, on a team with Duncan and Greg Popovich, so fans connected his success to the fact that he was on a great team. And I think that's why he doesn't get enough credit. I mean, part of it is true, but Parker was always an amazing individual player, and always competed with those top point guards I mentioned earlier, especially in the playoffs where he would turn it up another notch. Is he a top 10 point guard of all time? Probably not. But with his career coming to a close sooner than later, we're witnessing the end of an era. The last player remaining from the Spurs' historic Big Three, arguably the most successful trio in the history of basketball. And that's all folks, those are the last 4 remaining players from the 2001 NBA Draft. That draft class was a lot better than others, that's for sure. A ton of stars and superstars came from that class, and even today a couple of them are still going. Also, honorable mentions to Richard Jefferson and Joe Johnson, 2 lottery picks from this class who had exceptional careers too. They both retired within the last year, although Johnson is not technically retired. But he recently signed with the Big Three, so it's safe to assume his NBA career is over. And of course, honorable mention to the 34th pick of the draft, the GOAT, Brian Scalabrine. Let me know your thoughts on these players and their careers as they're coming to a close. Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.